Hello everyone, how are you doing? Eyal here, and I'm here for another coding stream working on our VST host app. What is our VST host app? I will show that in a second. So we're actually working on a nice product from Modalix, which hopefully would start beta testing and I don't know, maybe even later today or tomorrow or something. So we're probably going to start announcing it. I am going to show you what that is. It's called Plugin Buddy, and it's a free app and a free plugin as well that can host plugins, and it's a really cool helper for just performing with instruments, with instrument plugins. So it's a host that loads your plugins, even though it has a few plugins that we put in built in, just little utility stuff, and it just lets you perform. Let's see if we can have the screen share happening here. So this is what it looks like now. This is Plugin Buddy. And let's see if we can show the idea here. Let me stop this AI music for a second. Hopefully my audio and everything works, so I'm hoping that you can all hear me. Anyway, so this is Plugin Buddy, and the idea is that it scans your plugins. You can scan plugins, close whatever you have. So let's open something like Serum. Serum loads up. Here it is in my other monitor, and I can just play it. And once you load it, there's a few nice features. You can see a generic. Oh, this makes it go to my other monitor. But the idea is that, so you can you can look at parameter view, look at all the different parameters, control this. There's a way to map different controls to like quick controls that will show up here as well. And then you can add a few MIDI effects. So you can add, for example, velocity curve plugin. That's one of our internal plugins. Or you can add something like a Modalix arpeggiator or something. So you load them. And then you can add audio effects. So I can load, for example, FabFilter Pro R2. It should look like this, right? And there's also a mix option, so I can have, even if the plugin does not have mix, I can add my own mix. And maybe let's do something like let's enable the filter here. Let's map the cutoff of the filter. Let's hide this, and then the label here should update it, and didn't for whatever, but this works on cutoff. So you can see that this is a standalone utility. This lets you play without a DAW. You can save a preset that has different plugins, and this also works in the DAW. And we'll talk later about the plugin version of this and how this works. So yeah, this is what I'm working on today. There's a few bugs here, a few things don't work, and we're gonna start fixing them one by one, hopefully. Yeah. So how's everyone doing today? This is Plugin Buddy. I like these little meters that Or designed. I think it's kind of fun to just play with. Gives you like good feedback on what you're playing. Let's see, I can turn things off. I have a few options, like I can cut and paste the plugin. Like I should be able to. Let's see if this is gonna work. I should be able to cut the plugin from here and paste it over here. That works. That's good. I can copy and add another instance of the plugin. I think that also should work. Or remove. Yeah, that's pretty much about it. What else? There's audio settings, set my buffer size and all that stuff. Yeah, let's see if my scanner works. So I'm going to do a rescan plugins. This is my scanner. It runs the scanning out of process so that if one of your plugins crash, plugin buddy would not crash. It would be okay. Can recover from these kind of errors. Yeah, and the idea is that, like I said, this is going to be a free app, or a free plugin as well, so that people can just load it up on their computer, jam with whatever plugins they have. Like I use it a lot. Like my motivation to use this is a lot of the times I just like to load a piano plugin. Let's just see that I'm not debugging, because if I debug, things are good. I'm not debugging, so I can load my piano preset, and that preset has a plugin called Ivory. Get the volume up a little bit. Let's try something. Let's play something here. I don't know if people know that song, but this is Junk by Paul McCartney from, I think, his first solo album back in 69 or 70. It's such a great song. I wanted to do a proper piano version of it, but I was just like testing my little piano here. Yeah, and I'm using this plugin buddy here just because it's just fun to have a preset of my piano and the reverb that I like, Pro R2. Sometimes I'm adding a little velocity curve or an arpeggiator or something, and this is pretty much my a live preset. Sometimes I'll add an EQ, little EQ. But yeah, this is really something meant for this kind of a vibe. So it's meant to be something that you open during when you want to jam. You open during a rehearsal. It's got some other features. For example, you can if you load the AAX version of this in your DAW, this would load VST plugins. So that also opens up, opens you up from, if you're a Pro Tools user, it opens you up to other plugins that might not be available for your platform. So there's some other benefits there. I want to say hi to Landa or Athena. Also want to say hi to Yoni on Facebook, who seems to have liked my song selection. Playing Paul McCartney's Junk. I'll go back to it. I was just jamming on it yesterday. There's all these little things I want to capture. Like, for example, in the chorus, it does something like I don't know if you can hear my hands, but I'm actually playing something like. So I want to try doing something like. Kind of do this chord harmony thing. I really like that. So I'm practicing this. Let's see if I can make a piano version happening. Maybe after I finish with the stream, I'll practice and and get a normal performance out of this. So there's a question from Matthias. Looks cool. A question. Can it be loaded as both instrument as an effect? I was thinking of using it as Kashmir chain. So that's a great question. The answer is no. We intentionally decided to not make this a chainer for effects. There probably will be a version that will be specific for effects later down the road. But one of the problems we found with, there's a few apps that do these like generic chains. And what I found was because they support effects, then that means the flow that they offer is not so friendly for instruments. So we would probably redesign something else with effects in mind. Even though there is an effects chain happening here, right? There is, you load here the processing effects, but it's mostly something, like the idea of this is to help you use an instrument plugin for now. But this, by the way, was another reason to make this free, so that because if we start to load this up with a ton of features, this would eventually get, into the territory of big commercial apps, and maybe we would make the commercial version of this that can do anything. There's a great question here. Can you open this as this is in Hebrew, but the question is, can I open this as a plugin inside itself? Technically, the answer is yes. Like, I think I should be able to look and say, oh, here's Plugin Buddy. Honestly, this particular application is not well tested. Here, it does work. So it does. I can load Plugin Buddy inside of Plugin Buddy. It works. I'm not guaranteeing this is going to work well. I might block it, at least for the initial version, just because I think it brings up a few different development questions. Yeah, so Matthias says that I would gladly buy a commercial version that had both effects and instrument. Okay, that's great. That's great to hear. And I think we would eventually, combine the effects and the instrument and have some, have more dedicated solutions for all of these different. All the different use cases. So we're really trying to focus on something specific here, and you can see that we made, like, for example, one of the things we wanted to do is make MIDI effects be first-class citizens, so that you can load something like Modelix, Eon ARP, and let's not load Plugin Buddy. Let's load Vital or something, and then that's slow. Let's. Right, so we wanted to make this particular part of the process really easy with MIDI, with the visualizer for the notes, everything to do. Like, we wanted to make the experience for instruments really easy, because for processing chain, there's probably a lot that you'd want to do with, parallel chains and connections between, multi-channel instruments and other things that we didn't want to address those in this kind of a free plugin, but it's very possible that we would in the future make a more durable version of this that would cover the other use cases, because the technology is similar. It's similar to host an effect, here, and to host an effect in like a dynamic chain. Also, one thing you'd notice there is we very intentionally limited the order and number of effects. Like some of these meta plugins that exist, or meta apps, give you like a much more flexible chains with sands and many inserts and many post effects plugins. And we decided to focus on, something that would hopefully provide a good experience for performance. Because when you have these more complicated chains, sometimes you don't know what comes before, what comes after. And this would hopefully streamline, the flow for the instrument use case that we're trying. By the way, something cool about the chain here that I liked. You see here I had Eon ARP opened, right? So so the meter here is actually that's a meter for the for the instrument, I think it doesn't do post effect. I think the meter is just for the instrument, but the notes are actually get feedback into the MIDI chain, so that if I have an ARP open, right, this won't give me the input notes on the instrument. It's going to give me the input notes through the chain, right? Whereas if I open Vital here, Vital doesn't have a keyboard in it, right? So that will only play the notes inside of Vital. It's not going to feed it back into my arpeggiator chain. Okay, so this is where I am currently. There's something I want to check here. Oh, here we go. I just did something that crashed. I knew this was going to happen. We're going to see pretty soon why this crashes. Okay, so let's get to coding now that hopefully I've explained what this is. Played some Paul McCartney music. And let's get to the actual code. Let's put in some AI royalty-free music. Just do something here. So good seeing C++ again after being stuck with Lua. What's wrong with Lua? Tell us what's what is problematic about it. I know some people really like Lua. Okay, so let's start to explain what it is that that I want to fix. So there's a few kind of problems that I saw obvious. One of them is a little crash that just happened. But I think the main thing I need to solve is how the macros or these oh, look at this comment. Horrible language, indentation based, weird syntax, many things inbuilt in other languages, only works over functions like for each stuff. For loops don't have continue, have to do that with goto. It resembles Python, and the worst part is it's dynamically typed. Right. Dynamically typed languages, that's fun. Honestly, I really get used to it with JavaScript, like plain JavaScript. I think that I actually appreciate being able to write really quick things like that, but I understand why it's a problem when you want to write complicated pieces of software, right? I definitely prefer types and things that make more sense when you read the function, and when you can kind of, you don't like the type is not anything, it's fixed. Okay, let's see what are we gonna do right here. Okay, so what I wanted to do first is I wanted to go over, or you know what, let's start with things that are really obvious that I can probably fix right now. Let's start with these mix stuff. Like you see, this shows like a floating point number. That's really annoying. This should not do that. Let's make this show percentage, right? Like, I don't know, mix 0% until 100%. I think that makes more sense. Yeah, let's start with that. I think that's like one of the obvious bugs that I've seen just testing this right now. So let's see where this is. So I should have, and I think I know why that happens. I think the problem is somewhere here in the code for the state. This is called a slot, and this thing has this thing called a mix. Yeah, and I think the problem is, this is, when I create, we have this code that creates a UI parameter from this atomic, right? And that basically means it has no sense of scaling. So I should, instead of doing this, I should create a better version of this parameter. Let's see how am I going to do this. So there's a few ways. I guess the simplest way is I should have a parameter, something like, I should have something like a percent parameter. Mix. I need to see how that's the only thing is how this is going to work with ownership, because this is based on the juice audio parameter, and I think it has a specific requirement for ownership. But I think I have a way to fix that. Yeah, I think I should be able to fix that. So I should be able to do, let's see, the way Juice handled this particular thing is very weird with the way they require you to do ownership on the parameters. And I have a few ways to solve this. Do I have percent parameter? What's percent? Oh, there it is, percent param. Okay, this should work. Let's call it mix, and this would be, let's see, what is it? This thing requires ID name, so it would be something like mix. Yeah, because I also need this to have the name of the slot. Yeah, so I think because there's a few slots here, think of what would be the best way to represent this. Because I think what I also would want to do, I would want to have these mixes show up as automation on the plugin version of this. So I think I would want to expose them. How would I do this? One way is to, I guess I could just put this here, or I can kind of change these on the top plugin and then pass the value into here later. No, I think I'm okay with this being here. Let's do mix. But maybe I would also add the slot name here. Do I have the slot name? Yeah, title. So it'd be something like title plus since it's ID, so it'd be like title this, and this would be title plus mix. And then what else does this need in the constructor? It requires me just minimum, maximum. I think that's fine. 0, 100. I think I like the default 100. I think it'll be better. So 0, 100, 100. Let's do that. Full mix would be a better, I think, user experience. So this would be the mix parameter. Let's see how am I using it later. I think the processor of this needs to read from this value. think that's fine. I think it should get the value from 0 to 1, which makes sense. But yeah, I think that's okay. And I think that means that now I need to add these on the big plugin level. Like I need to go to hello SR. Thank you for joining me today. As I've said, I'm working on this little thing called Plugin Buddy, which is a free instrument host and effects host app and plugin. What I'm doing now is fixing something small. I'm fixing the fact that I wanted let's see. I wanted to see if I can make this show up as percentages. So what I need to do is look up in my plugin. The plugin is here. And I should just be able to collect here in the state. I should be able to something like params forward, right? Can I forward this or should I just add this? Because this isn't added anywhere. I think I should just be able to add chain effects slots. Yeah, so I can just go over all the slots for now. Chain effects slots. And then I can do something like params add slot mix. I think this should work. Let's see if this is going to work as I'm expecting. Oh, okay. So now it says, and it's correct by doing so. Here I'm trying to serialize this. I think this. How am I going to serialize this? Do I even need to serialize? I guess I can just add child. I think this would work like this. Because now the parameter is a more complicated type. It's not just a raw value, which is why I need add child here. Let's see if this is correct. Okay, so now my mix, and if you can see this, but this had numbers before. Now this says 0 to 100%, which I think is better. Hooray! Okay, that's good. So one thing fixed. Let's commit this and say plugin buddy made mix effects be exposed as automation, as well as use that percentage instead of the raw float value. And let's see now. Let's see if this actually shows up correctly on the as a plugin. So let's load plugin buddy VST3. Let's see if that works. I did not check the plugin version so well. So it's probably a good idea to do that right now. I just want to make sure I don't have duplicated version of plugin buddy here. This is fun. Hopefully I can get a few bug fixes here, and then maybe I'll take a break just so that I can work on my Paul McCartney cover. That could also be fun. I'll just practice it here on the stream. Okay, so let's load Ableton Live. The nice thing for now that there are barely automation parameters here, so this should be easy to look at. Okay, plugins, Model-X, plugin buddy. Here it is. And then, yeah, so here we go. So now you can see that, I don't know if you can, let's try zoom. Yeah, so you can see that, let's bring plugin buddy in the frame. Here it is. Yeah, so you can see that now this parameter is showing up as percentages, and it's connected, right? When I move here, this moves here. Let's see if this works the same way. Yeah, so you see there's a reporting both sides that happened from Ableton into my parameter. It shows both the actual value, like I can move it in Ableton and it's going to move in the plugin, but it also reports the percentage. Like when you can see this display box, this shows the values that I'm reporting on my on the plugin. So for example, if you see the volume, right, you see there's master volume here, so that shows up as dB, right? And you can see that it's actually me that reports these numbers, right? The Ableton doesn't know, for example, what the maximum volume on my master volume, like it has no way of knowing that. I am the one that knows what it means to move the slider and what it means in terms of amplitude. So this is the this is how it works. Okay, so a couple of questions here. What song of his are you playing? I was playing the song Junk from the first Paul McCartney solo album. I'll probably go back to playing it again, just want to get in a groove of doing my parameter updates. I just yesterday I got inspired to learn the chords. It's such a beautiful song, and I think I'll do just a fun piano version. Nothing too extravagant, just like a beautiful song that's fun to play. And I was I don't know, something about that song just connected with me. But all of Paul McCartney's songs are beautiful, so yeah, he has a lot of great ones that I probably want to cover at some point. And I need to figure out some of the choruses songs I've never, because I've picked up a lot of Beatles songs over the years, so I know how to play many Beatles songs, but there's some that he wrote on his solo career that's just amazing. Yeah, I love Paul McCartney. Anyway, this is yeah. So I'm working on Plugin Buddy, which is going to be our free VST host. And by the way, this is something kind of cool about this. I am here in Ableton Live, and I can load other plugins in the chain. So just to give you an idea, a lot of the reason why this was made is in Ableton Live. Let's say I want to use a MIDI plugin like Eon ARP, our plugin Eon ARP or something. You need to actually open two tracks. Like you need to do something like I need to load Serum in this track, right? And then in this track, I need to load Model-X Eon ARP. And then I need to connect MIDI from Eon ARP into Serum, and then I can have. Oh, my audio from live is going to my MacBook Pro speakers. Yeah, so after yeah, and even then I need to turn off this internals. The internal synth here, and then I think I need to do in here. Yeah, so only look at how many steps I had to do just to connect the MIDI plugin. That's kind of annoying. And then I want to have a reverb, so you need to start having reverb sense. So it's okay. I mean, it's definitely more flexible than what we can do in Plugin Buddy in terms of routings. But I wanted in Plugin Buddy, you don't need all this wiring, right? I can remove this. I can remove this. Let's say I just had a blank MIDI and I had Plugin Buddy in here, then the routing here with something like Eon would be much simpler, because I can do Model-X Eon, instrument serum, and that's it. It's wired. Like I didn't do any wiring. It's from one to another. I can have multiple MIDI effects as well. So it's all these like little, let's call it, quality of life helpers that should hopefully help specifically with the use of instruments, right? Because I didn't want to, create something that's too generic and then looks more like a DAW, right? So this is meant to be not a DAW. This is meant to be something you load up as a standalone app or as a plugin, and you just put your instruments and MIDI effects, audio effects, maybe load a preset, and let's go. That's the vibe. Okay, so now that we got this percentage thing working, there was a couple of other obvious problems that I've seen. Okay, so the comment is, I just heard that song first time a few weeks back. For the first time a few weeks back. This just hit me for the first time. Yeah, man. Yeah, Paul McCartney's so good. He has his first few solo albums. There's one album called Ram. I think it's one of the best albums ever. It's so good. I definitely recommend checking that out. It's from 71 or 72, something like that, like early 70s. This album is so good. People don't recognize, how many great songs he had on his solo career over the years, even without the Beatles. Okay, so let's see. So I fixed the mix thing. What else was very obvious fix here? Okay, so I need to start addressing what's up here with the macros, this quick controls thing. Those are kind of a mess for a variety of reasons. The idea of the macros is you load a plugin. Let's load Serum here. Here's Serum. Let's make the window a bit smaller. Let's see if it's going to save the window size, by the way. Yeah, okay, that's good. It's back to the same size. So you load Serum. The idea is that you click Map, and then you do something like twist the filter, and it's a little bit small, but it should say here in the top, Serum. Ooh, there's some. You can see the text sizes needs some adjustments here. Serum filter cutoff. And to do this, I can control cutoff from here, and the actual display is what the plugin reports. Like the plugin reports, in this case, the frequency of the filter cutoff, and I can work with this. So first bug I saw that if I remap this thing to resonance, so you see that didn't change. That's not good, right? Like it still shows cutoff, which is not good. Like it should show resonance or something else. Yeah, and also Or told me that if I undo this, it crashes. I don't know if that's. I don't know. Yes, eventually these undos will crash. That's another very obvious problem. Okay, so let's see how these macros are built. Honestly, I think the code for these macros is kind of a mess. I made these. I think I made these on stream as like a proof of concept in one of the previous streams, and I think like happens a lot of times is that the code for the proof of concept remains in the product, and you're like, oh no, what am I going to do with this? Like you stop. You kind of forget that you made this as a proof of concept. Yeah, and I think the code for this is a little bit. There's a few things here that make sense, and a few things that are pretty horrible. So let's see if we can rethink how these macro parameters are created. The idea is that a macro parameter and I'm saying this out loud to explain this to myself as well. I think the idea is that a macro parameter should hold, because basically a macro parameter is like a pointer to the real parameter, but it also needs to hold some extra information because let me think about this. Yeah, so the way I've done this so far is I map this to an index. It's not so bad to map this into an index. Maybe this would actually be the best thing to do, because at least so far, my slots, like the processing slots, they're at least in this version of the product, they're fixed. They're fixed number of slots. That means that I should be able to say, well, I need slot number 5, parameter number 50. I think that's okay for this. Another way is I can use a name, like I can store a name, and I think that might be more durable. Like say I have the slot is FX2 or something. Maybe that would be better than storing the pointer here. Yeah. And also I think there needs to be something that kind of tells it to update, so that if I remap, then I do something else. Okay, let's start with this. So instead of serving a slot pointer here, let's do something like string slot, no name, slot name. I can even do something like call it, initialize it with none. This would cause some compilation problems here. So yeah, so how am I setting this? I call set parameter with the parameter and with the slot. Okay, which I can do because I know now I can do something like slot name equals slot to slot name or title. Index is the slot plugin. What's these params? Plugin dot parameters. How's this thing called? What is that? So the slot is yeah, so this would give me the index of this parameter in the slot. I think this should work. Yeah, I need to see what happens when I actually do this mapping. So get plugin name and no assign. Let's use this. No assign. Okay, and this should just give me return slot name. I need to see what this actually works. I'm not 100% sure this works. This code is really not tested well enough. Like we should make this more durable doing the stream here. Okay, so let's open. There's a built-in transpose plugin. Let's map this index -1. Okay, that's not good. So I think I know what the problem is. Yeah, this is not going to work because this is that's interesting. All right, I'm going to take a break and come back in a couple of minutes. And now I'm back with the microphone on. Okay. So what I need to do is I want to rethink what happens when I actually set the parameter for these meta parameters, quick controls. Where are my glasses? That's better. Okay. Index. Yeah, let's see how let's just follow how this gets called. So that is, I'm here, I'm click map, I do this, and then okay, so I just listen to this touch on the parameter. Yeah, probably doing that with the index is not the best idea. But the thing is, I'm trying to see, is this listening to the parameter on the host? Or is this listening to parameter on the hosted plugin? Yeah, because it looks like this search didn't work because it's not a part of what I call a dynamic host. I think this is actually going to be internal parameter. Dynamic parameter. Yeah, let's see how did I reach here. Like, what was the logic? Maybe go all the way up to here. So I have to think called the macro mapper. Okay, so this listens to the plugin. Okay, so this is this dynamic host. So I think I should also be searching on that list. So it's not this list. It's going to be something like a in this case it's slot use.plugin.get parameters. Yeah, it should be on this list, I believe. This is basically the list. And I guess I could also use the ID of this, right? Can I get the ID of this parameter? Do I know for sure that it has an ID? Right? Can I, because this is the base class. I'm not sure there's an ID here necessarily. I think index is more guaranteed, but index can also change. So that's interesting. Is a hosted parameter guaranteed to give me an ID? Will always there be an ID here? I'm not sure. So yeah, so what I could do is just search for that in this, if I just like params equals this, params. Can I find something here? Because this is a juice array. Does it have something like search or find in here? Or because I can also use the like an STL search, I guess. But oh, there it is. Index off. That's what I need. Okay, great. So I think it's similar to what I use. So it's params index off. I think this should be okay. Let's see. So it's something like index. Let's see if this is going to actually find this. I need to see that this would let me reflect on the index of the thing in the plugin. Now that I realize that there might be an off by one problem here as well. Let's see if I'm correct. So let's load this and let's map here. Index -1. That's not good. That means it didn't find it. I'm not sure this is the best way to do this. I might need to write my own search, because I want to find this. There's some level of indirection here that I probably need to resolve myself, because there is here the slot. Slot is basically a bunch of parameters around this thing called dynamic host, and I think, yeah, let's try something. Let's see if I can. How can I know that parameter is the same parameter? Okay, let's do something. Let's do something like int get parameter index, and it would take an audio processor parameter. Param. So I need to go over. Because are those parameters the same indexes as my own parameters? Let's see when I do attach plugin parameters. How does my, because I also have the bypass parameter that might change things here. Yeah, so let's do a more manual search here. I think that will make more sense. I think what I'm going to do is this would have is this a reference? Yeah, okay. So let's go over all these parameters. Then if params index is the same as the parameter, let's do like current equals params index, and then okay. If it's equal to that parameter, then return index. But if it's not that, I can also check. I need to do the if dynamic cast of so current. If the current is the same, then do this. But also then check if it's the current dot, if it's so auto dynamic equals this, and then dynamic the way to get the actual parameter here, right? This thing, internal parameter. I have no way of getting it. Okay, let's make this public. So then if dynamic get param, the address of that is equal to the param, return index. I think that's kind of more complicated way to eventually leverage that, but I think that's going to be the more correct way to do this search. So this should also be a const, I think, parameter, and I think this can also be a const function. So dynamic host slot. So instead of doing all of that, I would do index equals, just let use get parameter index of parameters. Let's see if this is going to give me a number that I'm happier with. Oop. Oh, parameters or something. Okay, I got the plugin. Let's map it. And let's see what index did I get now. Index 1. 1 is good. That is good. Oh, so this gives the name of the slot. This is probably not the best. Maybe it is pretty good to put instrument there. I can also add the name of the plugin, I guess. But yeah, but this now works. Let's see if this works when I change it. If I remap. Yes. Okay. So now, first of all, that fixed the naming problem, as you can see. So now when I remapped, it kept this correct. This view is still a little bit shaky, but this view looks good, and I can control the macro from here. Right, you can see it picks up the text from the correct thing. I think that works. Okay, so we've finished this. Let me first of all commit this thing in the hosting part, because that's a part of the library. So let's do something like dynamic host. Added the option to search for that parameter index. Yeah, let's do that. So that's a useful commit already. Now I need to work on the way the macros are restored, I guess. Yeah, because I think that currently, okay, so why do I need this audio processor? Oh, okay, I think I know why I did that. And because basically, I think my original idea was that, and I think this should be the real idea. I think I just didn't finish implementing this. I think the idea was that the macro would actually represent a parameter in the DAW, and then Yeah, I think that's what it should do. Okay, so what I think is I need basically a way to serialize and deserialize this, because I'm not sure this is going to get restored. I think when I reload now the same preset, it would probably forget what I did. Yeah, I think that if I'm going to assign, let's assign this. I did assign it. And let's exit this plugin buddy. Ooh, let's not do that. Let's not load Ivory, because Ivory requires iLock and it's gonna hate my debugger. Okay, see that, load that back in. Yeah, I didn't remember that, so I need a way to serialize this, or at least make these parameters, I guess, be recallable. So let's think of what the way to do this is. Yeah, so I need to add something like a void serialize function. Reflector ref, and this should do something like ref add index slot name. And I think what I need, okay, so the question is, what's the plugin buddy all about? So plugin buddy, I've showed this a little bit before. Plugin buddy is a meta plugin. Basically, it's a standalone app and a plugin that loads other plugins. It's specifically designed to help the chain of an instrument along with MIDI and audio effects. So as you can see, it scans your plugins, and you can see I can load Serum here, and it's going to load Serum inside of Plugin Buddy. And then you can load MIDI effects here. I can load MIDI effects on Arpeggiator or some of the internal ones that I have. I can play. This is a fun visualizer. And so yeah, so it's meant to be something that you use to jam with your instruments and effects, basically. And it's going to be free, by the way. So this is going to be a useful tool for people who are, jamming with plugins, developing plugins as well. Like this is a cool debugging host as well. Yeah, you can randomize parameters. This is a fun feature. Ooh, I did not expect this, but you can randomize parameters. You can load a generic editor as well, kind of look at the parameter view. All kinds of little things like that you can do. Now I'm working on fixing this thing about the quick controls feature. Hopefully that answered the question. You would probably start beta on this very soon. I think it's already in a very decent stage, even though it's not perfect. Plugin Buddy. Okay. So I want to serialize this, and what I wanted to do, I want to make sure that whenever we restore this, this reassigns the parameter. And I think that what that means is I need a way, like the macro actually needs a bit more information. The macro would need Might even need the full chain, right? Or this, it needs a vector of slots. Basically, it needs this because it needs a way to kind of recover what it assigned from the list of slots. So I think what I would do is, I mean, one way is I could pass the chain to this. This would create another circular reference here. It's not so bad. Let's start with that. Let's start with passing the chain maybe into the macro. So that means that when I create this thing called macro params, oh, you see this actually gets past the dummy processor, and that's I probably need to add the real processor here. Yeah, so I think what this would need is this would need two things. One is it would need the chain, so there's going to be some forward declaration happening here. So this would need to get to know about the right. So this would need to know about the chain. Struct chain. This is another question. I think because this is a part of the state. Okay, I probably don't need to do this. I can live without this. I can live without this thing. I think I can do this part later. I can do something like add to. No, I can just add this manually myself. I don't need to even do this. I can remove the need for this. Remove the need for this. Name. Name is okay. And then, but I do need the chain here. So I do need something. I do need to take the chain. And now that would mean that I would have to move this into the CPP because this otherwise would have a circular include here. So I need to include the chain here. The chain knows about the slots. So I don't need to include that directly, but I should be able to do chain to use. And then yeah, and now the chain should help me to get the parameter. So it should be able to tell me something like audio processor parameter, get parameter for basically for the macro, I guess. Right, that's called the macro. Yeah. So I could just ask for something like const string slot name and int index, and I would do something like that. So I would go to slots equals get slots. Or first I would need something like slot get slot. And this is a pointer because it could not find, like it's possible that it would not find it. It's a const, I think. Not sure this could be const. We'll see. Anyway, so yeah, so this does this. slots, if slot title equals title. Turn slot, turn null PTR. Okay, so this is the get slot function, just goes over that, compares slot and returns if it finds it. So equals get slot name. If it found it, then return slot plugin get parameters index. Maybe I would make this a little bit safer by doing just to make sure that I don't overflow here. Params equals this, and if index is less than param size, then return params index. And if you did not reach this thing, just return null PTR. Yeah, because this could fail here, this could fail here, but any of these failures, can this be const? No. Okay, so now from the macro, what I need to do is that whenever I load, then param set. No, it's called set param, right? And actually, I might add a feature here that says same thing just to the pointer, because what it is, if param2 is equal to null PTR, then set to internal. That's also an option here, and else set param2. So that would give me a bit more flexibility whenever I'm not sure this parameter is exists. So if it's loading, set parameter, so the chain. Let's switch to CPP because chain is not known here, but it is here. Get param from the slot name and the index. Oh, and also if index bigger than 0 and because -1 is actually a valid number that can come out of here. Yeah, so this is what it is. So if I'm loading the preset, you can load. You should be able to load this, and I might even need a bit of notification here in case something changes. But this is the base idea. Now, macro mapper, macro manager. Okay, so this has only a pointer of this. This also needs to. I need to serialize those. Can I serialize those? Should be able to serialize that, right? Oh, these are the mappers. These are the macros. Okay, that's good. Can I serialize this? I think to serialize this, I need a way to also do like some default constructor on this. How do I do that? Because basically I need something like this. I need to avoid serialize on the macro params. And I think my this needs the chain. right? Because basically this is a chain, and this is something like add container, add child container, I think is what I need here, and it's going to be called params param and parameters. But I'm not sure this is going to work because I think this is it's going to have a problem with this constructor. Yeah, so what I could do is I can save this as like this. This isn't great. How do I usually do these things? I need a way, because I need a way for so that serializing would load these. Yeah, I think I have a way to do this. I think to do this, I need a way. Oh, there it is, factory. I think I need a factory function. That's what I need. So I think I need something like an auto creation func equals. It's interesting. I don't even know the index here. Probably should know the index. How am I going to do this? I need a way to default. Either to default have a way to default construct this, and that means yeah, so I can probably just do this. Let's make this a pointer, and I would have. Oh, but this has to be initialized with the name. I can't just redo this. No, I can't do that. Yeah, I think I just found an interesting problem with my serializing library, because I need this, that when I'm kind of recreating these parameters, I need a way to pass these in somehow. You know what? That might be, no, that's possible. I can totally do that, actually. I can totally do that. So I think yeah, I should be able to do that. So it should be something like a factory function, and that factory function should do yeah, because this is the name. And if that's the case, I don't need this pointer, right? Yeah, I think that should be okay. I think I should be able to say, I do need the chain stored here. So this will be on that chain to use. yeah, this will need to be aware of the chain. And then to create this, should basically look like this. So the name is size +1, or just parameters.size actually, right? Because if it's it's size +1, right? Because if I have 0, the name should have 1 in it. Yeah, I think that's correct. And then just do parameters, create new with the name and the chain. You see, this is way too similar to this, so let's just do something like create element int index. And this would just do this. And this would just be create element. Parameter size. And then I should be able to just pass the factory here. Let's see if this is going to work. So that is that there's this thing that's going to help. It's going to help whenever these parameters are loaded. It's going to call the factory function. That's how I'm, in a generalized way, was able to. Now this is not going to compile because I need to pass the chain into macro params. So macros should take this basically. Oh, and I also need to serialize the macro params. That's easy. Macros, macros. Okay, so, I think I made a mistake about what this factory function should return. Let's see what it is exactly. Factory. Oh, I need to actually return the thing, not just add it directly to the container. Okay, that makes sense. That makes sense. So that's actually even better than what I initially thought. So that means the thing should actually be vector requires create Okay, so it's just create. That's all I need. So I just need to do. It would be something like macro create index, and this would return new macro name chain. This can now be const. Yes, good. And this would be parameters create, or let's call it create macro. So create macro. index. This is not needed. And here, the factory should just do, I think this is correct, return create macro index, sorry, parameters size. And then this is not needed. Let's see if this is correct. No matching constructor of macros. Of macro? What was the error message? Couldn't construct a macro. New macro, name, and chain. There's a problem because it's const. Is that the problem? No. New T. No? Is that not true? Let's ignore this part for a second and see if I got this correctly when I'm constructing it. Yeah, this is fine. Now, so the problem is the way I've used this factory. Let's see if I got this correct. So this is usually does child letter, add child. Yeah, so this should, maybe I'm misunderstanding something, but this should work, right? Like parameters should be able to do, but basically what it tries to do is something like this. Parameters in place back, create macro, whatever, 0. That's, my understanding is that this is what it tries to do. Yeah, so that does work if I do directly like this. So why isn't it working when I pass a factory function like this? Did I miss out on something? Also, I'll move this to the CPP file. That could also be related, I guess. Oh, I see what the problem is. This expects yeah, so I think this expects something else. This does not expect the creation of a pointer. This expects the creation of an object. That's not good, because this is not going to work, right? Because I'm calling directly at child. I think I was not prepared for this situation. Yeah, because I think my generic code for writing a this is my generic code for writing for deserializing and owning pointer. Oh, but you know what? This is a constructor that should actually never get called, I believe. Like I think it needs to know how to compile this, but it yeah, that's interesting. That's interesting. I probably can use concept for this or something. I think the idea is that I think this expects me to add something like that. But I'm not sure it's actually going to work. That one is interesting. See, how am I going to solve this? Because I need a way generically yeah, because I basically need to never allow it to go through I mean, for now I can probably hey Sar, gonna head out because the weather is finally nice enough where I should go be outside to understand a lot of this stuff, but it's been cool to observe the process. Hope to catch you again soon. Awesome. Thank you for joining in. This is quite an obscure problem that I'm dealing with now, but hopefully it's useful. Okay, so one intermediate way I can use for now is I should be able to basically just overload this when I create only pointer off macro. Does this need to be in the serializing? Just EA. Okay, so this would need something like VA. One pointer of VA audio. Plugins. Okay, so this is a great question. Have you thought about other languages for audio? Rust, Kotlin. Okay, this is a great question. I'm going to go here and answer this on this. Okay, so the question is about other languages for audio. Rust or Kotlin. Yeah, so there are a few options for to use with when you want to write audio programs. But I think the choice of language is okay. So I would say I would go first. Kotlin, I'm not sure would be appropriate for pro audio, because I think Kotlin is like similar to Java. Like it has garbage collector and does not expose a lot of the intrinsics of performance directly. So I think you might be able to write the UI in Kotlin, but then there's a lot of ecosystem things too, like will the Kotlin UI code compile to Windows? Will it compile to Mac? Will it compile to iOS? So there's all these questions on how the UI ecosystem of Kotlin would do this. But I think that for real-time audio, I'm not sure that Kotlin can do what we do here. I think the performance is just not good enough. So I'm not sure it's and I know Kotlin has you can compile this to a native Kotlin to a native target, but again, the problem is I think the language itself does not give you enough control over performance for the audio side of things. So I think Kotlin, again, it might work for the UI, but I think stuff on the I just don't think it gives you enough control. Like I know languages like Java, Kotlin lets you do stuff like add your own garbage collector, but the thing is, it's not fine-tuning enough. Like the problem is not garbage collection on its own. The problem is you need control over when something gets copied, when memory gets allocated, when it gets deallocated. Like you don't get control on the stuff on a high level language. That's why JavaScript is also not suitable. Java is not suitable. Like none of these languages gives you enough control for the real-time aspect. You could write the UI, right? You could definitely write a backend in a low-level language like Rust, C++. Well, I'll talk about Rust in a second. But you could definitely write the backend in a low-level language and then write a UI in Java, Kotlin, any kind of JavaScript, whatever, any kind of like higher-level language. And the only thing that would depend here is really if you have enough tools in the UI kit. Like I know that if you make an Android app, you have a lot of amazing UI stuff in Kotlin, but I'm not sure Kotlin has good library support to compile on Windows, Mac, iOS, the targets we're deploying to. So I'm not sure it would be an appropriate language, but maybe, maybe. So, but there are other languages that would work. So let's talk about this. I saw you mentioned Swift. Swift indeed should be suitable, right? Swift, I actually like Swift a lot. Swift is a hybrid language because it compiles to very native code, and I think it gives you enough control over functions so that you can, for example, have semantics where you do write a pure function that would have no allocations and no like no locks and no like system calls. I think you can really write a low-level function in Swift. So Swift would be usable. I think you can definitely write it, but Swift would have a couple of downsides. The main downside would be that everything to do with UI in Swift is Mac and iOS only. So you would have another solution for the UI on Windows and Android. So Swift itself, like the core Swift, will compile to all these platforms. Like you can compile Swift raw code now, I think, on Windows, Linux, Android, and all that. But I think you're not going to be able to do the Swift UI. Like you would need to basically have some interface layer into a UI language that would do cross-platform UI. So there's going to be a few of these problems, and it's another language that people are actually looking at a lot is Rust. So Rust, in terms of like the properties of Rust has enough. Rust gives you a lot of control. It is cross-platform to all these major platforms. So I think Rust in theory can work. And I know a few people have tried to do plugins and apps and audio apps in Rust. I think the problem with Rust is the UI libraries that exist are not mature. And I think that this is the main adoption problem with Rust and audio. So I think if once those libraries are really mature, so that there's something similar to Qt or similar to Juice in Rust, then there's not going to be a barrier anymore to do that. And it's the same with Kotlin, right? Like you mentioned, Kotlin has Jetpack Compose, so it can do UI for the major targets. Again, I would need to see. I don't think I've ever seen a Windows app written in Kotlin. Definitely, there's no plugins written in Kotlin because plugins have specific requirements on windowing and other handling. So there would need to be like a very mature layer where everything kind of works for somebody to switch languages. And I'm sure people are working on this stuff. Like I'm sure people are working on a way to get Swift to be this amazing cross-platform UI language, and I'm sure people are working on Rust. Like I know there's a few experimental, UI libraries for Rust, but to my knowledge, it's not something that, that's ready-made for use. Like I would need to maintain my own fork of some UI library and find out little quirks in that, and like it's not how people do things. It's not like when I'm working in C++ and I'm using Juice. So Juice is well tested in thousands of plugins, right? So I'm working on I like the idea is that I know that so it answers these two requirements. One is that I know that when I write the low level part of the code, it's my code. There's nothing on the system that's going to run externally to my code. There's no garbage collector. There's no system calls. There's no global locks like Python. Python has this global interpreter lock. There's none of that. I can control that side. But also, I know that the UI side and the file system side and the network side, whatever, I know that it's well tested. It's run on plugins. It can run in host. It can run on iOS. It can run on Android. So I think that there's all these other languages would need to have enough library support for this to work. I think people really underestimate how much work it is to do very, very solid cross-platform development. And I think, and also I gotta be honest, I don't think the language matters all that much. Like it's not like I'm not writing this in C where I have where I write my own mallocs hooks everywhere and stuff like that. Like I think my code would pretty much look almost the same now if I write it in Swift, if I write it in Kotlin. Like it pretty much be the same. Like I don't think I would write many of the interesting parts of my code differently. So I'm not sure there would be a big advantage to switching a language. I think the bigger part is the library. Like if, for example, if I switch now from Juice to Qt, Qt has a ton of things that Juice doesn't have, right? So I would get a big toolkit library, and I'll get a lot of widgets that Juice doesn't have. So that would be a big advantage for me, right? Like if this if the library gives me all this nice to have features. So I think that's more interesting to me than the choice of language. Like is the library battle tested, and is the library really saves me the time? Because if I need to write my own widgets on top of whatever, some JavaScript to fit a plugin, then it's I don't want to do that. Like I don't want to waste my time writing new low-level libraries in any language. Yeah, so that's why I think that it's whenever I make a choice for language, I think the main question on your end is the tool chain mature for what you want to do? Like, let's say you want to make an Android app, you probably want to use Kotlin, right, or Java, right? You want to use something that's people are deploying apps for that platform. I think that would be a very wise choice. Like, you don't I don't think you need to use a hipster language that's hip now, and kind of discover the world yourself. I don't think there's an advantage to that. Swift now is super mature on Apple platforms, so I think that's a good choice. Rust now is super mature for web backends, right? People use, I think if you make a microservice web app backend, I think, it used to be where you can only, the most mature language would be like PHP or Node.js, but now Rust is super mature. There's a lot of like professional grade web apps written in Rust, so I think there's no reason not to choose that. But I still think that for desktop, it's hard for me to believe like a game engine would choose Rust, just because you would not have any libraries, you would not have anything that you really need to get going, and it's like for very little advantage. Why does it matter so much that you call it box instead of calling it shared pointer? I think people really overestimate how much a language can do for you. I'm not saying, there are nice things about Rust, like it has pattern matching and it has some useful like language features, but those exist in C++ as well. They're just called differently. Maybe the compiler acts a little different. I think OCDing about language is a very Reddit thing that happens now, and it's where it's a lot more about different things about the ecosystem. It's about being connected to other developers doing what you're doing. Like, for example, now I'm doing audio, and let's say I'm stuck, something isn't working. Literally I can call or I can go on Discord for, where we have, other plugin companies, and they all do C++. None of them is doing Rust. So if I would use Rust, I would have no support. Basically, no one can tell me, hey, use this library, use this function. I'll be on my own on anything. Same with gaming, right? If you go to like game engine source code, just go to GitHub and see, what's Unreal Engine is written in or what Godot is written in. It's going to be C++, right? I'm sure you could do this in Rust, but people don't do that, so you're going to lose all your references. No, you won't have any reference code to look at. I don't know. I feel like those are way more important than what the language does. I hope that makes sense. Sorry for the rant. Okay. Yeah, and it says desktop target is JVM. Yeah, sure. So, right. So, this is about Kotlin, I think. And yeah, so I know that you can write cross-platform stuff on a JVM, and it works, but it's not. I don't know. I also want to say that I think languages like that, in my opinion, they're kind of like a step backwards in technology. Like, it's because I think code written with Kotlin, in contrast to code written with Swift, Rust, and Zig, whatever, love the languages. I feel like that code would always have a performance limit, and I think that. I don't know. I mean, again, if I need to do something quick, like I want to make an Android app, and Kotlin has these great libraries for UI, and performance really doesn't matter, so sure, I would use Kotlin. But I think that if you're thinking of, something that has a tech element to it, like, audio has the element of algorithms, need to run really fast, and maybe some animations that need to be like really responsive if you're making a game. I feel like those are not going to fly with a language like Kotlin. But it would fly on a language like Swift, Rust, C++. I think those are more, in my opinion, more future oriented. I think a lot of these higher level languages, a lot of code that was written in them had to be rewritten. Many people used to write a lot of code in Java and then rewrote it in C++ whenever they reached the performance limit. I think that this is also something to consider, especially when you're writing something that is not just a UI app but has like some meat on the algorithms. I think that you want to make sure that that your code can compile and run on some server and can run on some embedded chip and can run on run in the fastest way possible. That is, I think a lot of these JVM virtual machine solutions, a lot of them end up being rewritten whenever they had to scale. So that's also something to think about. Okay. How do I always get drawn into these talks? They're so interesting. It's so interesting to talk about languages and tech stack. But eventually it's much better to just solve a problem in whatever language that is already suitable for this. Like, I think that's something I've always learned. Like, when I write code on our website, I write it in JavaScript, right? Like I know I could write it in Rust and then compile it to WebAssembly and do this, but I'm like, JavaScript already works. Like I don't need to do anything special. Libraries for UI on the web already exists. I can use React or I can use Node.js. Like all this stuff exists. I don't need to reinvent the world when I'm writing those. And I think this is important, right? It's very important to live in the ecosystem of the target domain. Like if I would make iOS apps, slightly I would use Swift, right? Just because so many great things you get out of the box with Swift. So okay, where was I? Okay, so I think I need to implement something like audio plugins, plugin buddy, macro. Yeah, and I think here I'm kind of assuming that this isn't going to be null, and this should mean that I can just do object serialize. Ref. I think this should work. I think that this is basically a use of my templated serializing library where you can kind of inject these serializing functions. So once you create this thing in the namespace, then the code can compile. Oh, here we go. Duplicate objects. Oh, okay. This. Why is it duplicate? Okay, maybe I should just make this a source file. Okay, let's see if I got this to work. So the idea is that I can load the plugin and I should be able to map cutoff. This is okay. Now let's see, moment of truth. Is this being stored? is the chain itself serializing? Yeah, right. I am serializing that. Yeah, so this should store. Let's close this and reload and see if my assignment was stored. Here you go, instrument cutoff. Let's see if this is still connected. Let's bring up Serum. And it's still connected. Okay, this is great. There's an assertion happening here. I need to solve that. But generally, oh, I know what this happens, I think. Yeah, okay, so I know what this assertion happens. So the one last thing I need to do is in the okay. Yeah, I think I need to yeah, so I need to add these parameters. So I need to go macro chain dot. Oh, sorry, not here. Here. Yeah, so same as you do with the slots, let's do chain dot macros, then params add macro. Oh, I should be able now to include macros here, right? Or does slot include macros? Yeah, slot includes macros. So what was the problem here? Macro. Oh, it's macros dot parameters. Okay, I think this should remove the assert that it was just hitting, and this is good. That means that I should be able to make this change, and also, by the way, yeah, and this also means this should also appear on the automation list. So let's see. First of all, no assert, and I don't know if you can see that, but that means that my cutoff is still connected. Moves the cutoff, right? If I had another filter here, switch another preset or something. Yeah, so this works as intended, right? Let's now have a look at how this shows up on the plugin view. So let's go to plugin version. And what I did now is I'm building the plugin version of Plugin Buddy, and I want to see if those macros would show up. And actually, I probably want to. I think we talked about with Oriel. I need to add a few more macros, so that would be a good chance to do that. So here's Plugin Buddy. Okay, that's good. Let's load the UI. It's on the other monitor. Okay, let's bring up Serum. And then I'm going to map cutoff. Okay, first of all, you can see that it did update the numbers, but maybe it would be good. Call these parameters. These aren't the best names. Let's call it something better. But the idea is that I should be able, yeah, so it works. So I can now automate my plugin Buddy, and this automates the macro, and it also notifies Serum. So that's good. But let's just change the name. I think that would be better. It would be good if I change the name. So let's, how do I call that one? Macros. That's interesting. I think I might like to give it an explicit name, like macro or something. So let's, where did I give it the names here? I need to move all this stuff here. Mapper. Let's put this somewhere else. Let's call this macro mapper. Okay. Do some forwarding bureaucracy. See what else. Okay, this looks good. Save this correctly. The one thing I wanted to double check is, before I rev this up, is the name. I think what I wanted to see, I want to see that it reports like a normal name for this parameter. So I think this is going to work. Oh, did I just give it a number here? Name. Yeah, let's not do this. Let's do something like macro plus this. Oh, and maybe I should do this and the name. These characters. This with this, right? Should be able to do that. So that the name would have a space and the ID would have the underline. Label live, load Medalix plugin buddy. And this looks nicer. You see this? This is my plugin. Macro 1, macro 2, macro 3, and that means that what happens if I assign this? So let's pick our internal synthesizer. Map something. Okay, here you go. So now this says, it says macro 1. Okay, that's not good. I think I probably want to change it. I don't want the name to show like this here. Yeah, so I think what I want to do is when I assign this, because I want to use this name that's interesting, because I want to have a default name in case nothing is assigned. So I want to get the name in case nothing is assigned, but also yeah, let's make this a bit more durable. Let's do something like this. Let's do that. Index, set parameter. Okay, I need to do something more serious about this. Let's have a function, call it update param. And because I need to call this from two different places. Yeah, I think this just needs to call update param. And this is the update param function, which also would be called from here. But also I want to do something about the name here. So what I would do is I would do two things. One, I would store the name. And this name would be something like macro1, macro2. So add name. And this would do something like name to use. Or actually this would be ID, not the name, this is the ID. Yeah, because the ID is fixed. That will not change. But the name is gonna be this ID replace blah blah blah. And then set parameter, and here I also want to set the name, right? So it'd be something like param set name. Yeah, because with the name I need something. I need to so that if yeah, let me auto p equals this. Set the parameter p, and if p is not null, then set the name with p get name 20, and else set name. So that should be yeah, I think this should work. And now that I do all of this, there's one extra little thing that I want to do, and I'll probably communicate this through the chain. I'm going to do something like callback func update host or something. And then whenever I do this, I'm going to do chain update host. And the reason why I do this is now I should be able to tell the chain whenever I make so the plugin now, whenever I do a mapping like this, in the processor itself, I can do state chain host equals update host display. Is this good enough? No, right? Non-parameter state changed. True. I think that should be it. So the idea is, and you'll see that in a second, the idea is that whenever we're making a map, we also want to let the host, the big host, not my host, know that this thing has changed, and that should help the host show a different name for the macro. So the macro should show, like for example, let's say we're mapping, serum cutoff or something. This should show basically cut off. Or actually, I can make this better a little bit. I can, well, we'll see in a second, but it should hopefully be something that gives you a little bit more information on the DAW about what it is that you mapped. So here's Ableton Live. I'm loading Alex plugin buddy. Okay, load Serum. Map filter cutoff, and let's have a look. Ooh, why is it still saying parameter number 6? So that's a bug. That is a bug. Let's see why. Attach to Ableton, sorry, to Live. Oh, that's not good. Okay, so that means I did not do this parameter update correctly. Let's try this again. I think this is a better way to do this. This is a way. This is a way that uses a mechanism where the DAW ideally is become aware that we changed something, for example, in the parameters. So so this is a way for the the DAW to kind of know that it needs to update its own display. So it still shows the wrong name for the parameters. I'm not sure why. Let's see what happens if I do this here. Map cutoff. Okay, so that did change. You see that changes to cutoff. So I just need to change the default name. The default name is wrong. Let's see, why is that wrong? So just a macro. Oh, just because it didn't call update, I guess, at first. So I need to call update immediately. Yeah, because this should also work with the internal, and the name would be the name. Okay, I think this is the one thing that I was missing. Just an initial call for this update immediately. Oh, what's wrong here? What? Do I have something running here that stops the build? Okay, so this looks like this is failing when I'm yeah, I guess the problem is I shouldn't be calling this right in the beginning. Yeah, it seems like what happened is there's this VST3 validation step here, and this is failing when I call update parameter constructor. Let's see if standalone would give me an indication of what happens there. Oh, this should be -1 also, not 0. Let's see. Oh, I think there's just an order of creation here. These macros should be created right at the end. Actually, no, they should not be created at the end. They should be created later. Okay, so that should probably be why do I even need the macros to be a part of the chain? I'm not sure that makes any sense. All right. Yeah, those are not a part of the chain. I think that's just weird. I think that's really the problem. These should be a part of the state. These should be part of the state. This is my state. So they should just take the chain, and then the macro here can yes, there's a bunch of initialization stuff that just can be moved into the state. Okay. And same with this serialization. There's probably going to be some UI connection that breaks when I do this. Okay, so this looks like this works, and let's see what happens on the VST3 version. What I'm expecting to hear is I'm expecting to see these macros show up with a proper name, even when they load with no mapping, and then when there is a mapping, like I map this into the serum filter or something, then it should also update Ableton's display. So I'm gonna take plugin body here. Okay, let's look at the name. Look at this, macro 1, macro 2, macro 3. That is cool. And then let us assign this. So I'm going to load serum. Here it is, and let's map filter, and did not update the name. Why do I not see the name being updated, even though I think it does work? Yes, but this name should be updated, and it's not. Let's see why not. So macro should have attached to process live. Okay. Map residence. It did work. So get default flags. Yeah. Okay. With parameter state. It looks good. Let's see exactly what it did. So the details, yep, all looks true. So I did update. Maybe I put in the wrong name. What is the name here? If P is not null, then use the plugin name, the parameter name. What could be wrong with this? See exactly what gets hit when I do this. So if I map phase, so what's the new name that it got set? Phase. That looks correct. Yeah, so I'm setting the correct name on the parameter. I wonder why isn't it updating the name? I thought that it just did in the previous version. What am I missing now? It does look like I'm calling the correct update function, and I'm notifying the host. I'm not sure. This should change and show B phase. Because I think when I change this to yeah, so when I mapped something, this is the mapping function. Yeah, the yeah, that's interesting. It does look like Ableton is calling me to update the names. I just don't see the new names. This name. I am not sure. See what happens if I'm gonna host Plugin Buddy myself. I wonder why do I have two versions of Plugin Buddy? This is a Plugin Buddy inside of Plugin Buddy. And I should be able to look at the generic UI of it. Okay, that's good. Oh, let's host something in here. Let's host internal synth. That would be good. And then map this. Then parameters. Yeah, these also don't get updated, so there's definitely a bug happening here, but I'm not sure where. Okay, but I think anyway, this should be good enough for a commit. So let's see what exactly did I do. First thing, okay, first of all, let's do dynamic parameter. Added the option to store a new parameter conditionally. The null or a valid pointer. And then Plugin Buddy added serializing and deserializing for macro parameters. Okay. All right, I think I'm gonna stop the stream now, and I might continue this a little later. Thank you all for joining me, and see you soon.